Since ESO's release, the game has grown into one of the most content-rich MMOs ever made. We're talking 30 DLCs, multiple chapters, over a decade of storytelling. And here's the twist. They're not just a collection of random stories. The quests and zone actually form 7 massive story arcs, from betrayal, ambition, and world-ending invasions. ESO has it all. But there's the problem. ESO lets you start anywhere. That's great for freedom, but it leaves a lot of players asking, which stories connect and what order should I play them in? This is exactly what I'm going to break down for you today. We'll go through every story arc in ESO in order, and I'll give you a clear roadmap to follow without spoiling the endings. By the time you're done, you know exactly where to begin, how the story arcs connect, and why storytelling is ESO's biggest strength.
Hello everyone, Sayphex here.
Every story has a beginning, and ours starts in the Second Era in the year 582, much earlier than events of other Elder Scrolls games. The Vestige, the soulless one, your character, is being dragged in chains, soul-trapped by some villain who you'll get to know later in the ESO's first main story, the Planemeld. The story of Planemeld starts right after your character creation, where you're thrown into prison, and with a daring escape, your story just starts. The ESO's base game story and the Planemeld story arc are very much interconnected, and the base game is where all the stories start, expand, and continue. I recommend that you finish the story of your chosen faction first, so Ebonheart Pact, Almer Dominion, or Daggerfall Covenant. Getting to know the world, the culture, and the story amidst the war of Free Banner War. You'll also have the option to finish the Fighters and Mages Guild storyline. While the war for the throne rages, another more world-ending matter is coming, the Planemeld. Daedric god Molag wants to merge his world of Cold Harbor with our Mundus. You, the Vestige, should continue the plot and end it. After the main quest line is done, you're given the option to become someone unknown to others and experience other alliance zones as well. Meaning that after you finish your main faction zones and the main quest line, you should finish other base game zones and alliances as well to get their perspective on the Free Banner War. Plus, you'll get some cool collectibles. The Planemeld story also has an additional story inside Imperial City. Even though this is mainly a PvP zone, it has a cool story as well, one that you should definitely try out. With the Planemeld stop and you being the hero, you can continue this storyline in ESO's new chapter where the Warm Cold saga continues, or you can go to other zones and quests. To stay true and connect all of the stories into big story arcs, we should continue this saga by completing 2 prologue quests, a guild in crisis, and then Justice for the Fallen. Both of them take you on a quest, figuring out who is responsible for attacks on fighters and mages guilds. Eventually you figure out that the Warm Cold has returned. The journey leads to the island of Solstice, a mysterious new island divided by withering wall, a wall made of souls. You and champions of Tamriel gather to defeat these undead monstrosities. As this new story is currently unfinished, you should start with the questline Seasons of Warm Part 1. Then, when they come out, you complete 2 new dungeons, and finally the Part 2, and finish what your band has started. Early on, ESO released 4 zone DLCs with few independent stories and 2 dungeon DLCs. The zone ones are Hugh's Bane from Thieves Guild DLC, Gold Coast from Dark Brotherhood DLC, Ursinium from Hrothgar, and Murkmire from Murkmire. Dungeon ones are Shadow of the Hist and Horns of the Reach. All of them, on a glance, do not look connected, but after a bit of digging, and a few of them give subtle clues for the future stories. First, let's go over the not connected ones. Thieves Guild DLC introduces enormous Thieves Guild faction along with the zone of Bane. You help them rebuild it to its former glory while being besieged by mercenary forces known as the Iron Will. The DLC also focuses on stealth and justice system for all criminal-focused characters. This one has no prologue quest, so you can start your criminal career in Bane right away. The next one is an independent story in Murkmire Zone. This story starts with 2 prologue quests, the Ruthless Competition and then the Cursed Skull. Both give you a hint on what could be happening in the land of Argonians. To keep it with the theme, Shadow of the His DLC has one thematic dungeon called Ruins of Mazatoon. Even though it's not connected to the story, it feels thematically right to join in, complete it before you go into Murkmire. The next 2 zones are still independent, but at the end of each story they give a hint of the upcoming war. I call this story pack the Seeds of War. One of the stories is in the land of the orcs, the Ursinium. This was ESO's first major story and zone DLC, and it's considered to be foundation for the DLC centers around rebuilding the ancient orcish city of Ursinium in Hrothgar region. You join King Kurok to unite the orc clans and restore the city to its former glory, navigating political intrigue and facing new enemies along the way. The other zone is the Gold Coast. It comes with the Dark Brotherhood DLC, where you join the sinister assassination guild, though at height of their power, the Brotherhood faces a grave threat in the form of mysterious black armored warrior, capable of bringing down their best agents. You venture forth and you carve a bloody wrath across Tamriel in the name of Dark Brotherhood. The other dungeon that is released with Shadow of the His DLC, it's Cradle of Shadows. It's an old Imperial fort that has been converted into a lair of mysterious silken ring, a band of assassins and worshippers of Mephala. You and a member of Shadowscales, an Argonian assassins, travel there with the intention of destroying the silken ring. All these 3 stories hint at the upcoming war. The war will be first hinted by Varen Quelarius at the end of Ursinium DLC, then in one of the visions of Sweet Troll Killer in the end of the Dark Brotherhood, and again in Cradle of Shadows as part of the Shadows of the His DLC. But what war am I talking about? I do not talk about the Free Banner War, but the next big story arc, the Daedric War. The Daedric War Storyline is the second main story arc in Elder Scrolls Online. Unlike the main questline, it's not a single in-game quest. Instead, it's an overarching story spanning over multiple content updates in form of DLCs, chapters, and free quests. It involves a plot between Clavicus Vile, Nocturnal, and Mephala as they each vie to gain power over other princesses. To this end, Clavicle Vile sends his servant Barbas to steal Dunmer Tribune Vivek's power. Nocturnal launches an invasion of Sil's Clockwork City, and the triad of princesses set their sight to Somerset and the Crystal Tower, using the Court of Bedlam to achieve their ultimate goal of unlimited power and remaking Nirn in their image. To start this huge storyline, you begin by completing a prologue quest, The Missing Prophecy. Then you travel to Morrowind and uncover the plot of Clavicus Vile. This was the first storyline I had completed before I never knew that others existed. It was breathtaking, and to this date it sits at the top of my favorite storylines. Before you travel to Clockwork City to save Sil, I recommend that you do another prologue quests of Knives and Long Shadows. This will give you a solid introduction to this adventure. After it, travel to Mournhold and speak with one of the oldest sorcerers of all Tamriel, Daedric Fear. He will open a portal to Clockwork City, and your journey there can begin. The final part of Daedric Storyline ends in the Somerset Isle. A prologue quest, Through a Veil Darkly, gives a hint on what these three Daedric princesses are planning. Somerset was once closed to the public, but after Queen's decree, it was opened. This gives you an opening for you to travel there and find a way to end another Daedric plot. At the end of this storyline, there were no hints of another Daedric invasion. Eventually, the next chapter has led us to the warm sands of the Khajiit. The chapter of this story begins with a letter from a friend, Abnor Tarn. In a prologue quest, The Demon Weapon, he explains that he's looking for a weapon that could finally end the Three Banner War. To do so, you have to collect 2 halves of the Redstone, an ancient tablet that could release this ancient weapon. To do so, you travel to 2 dungeons available with Redstone DLC and collect them. After that, you continue with another prologue quest, The Halls of the Colossus, unlocking this secret weapon. After some puzzles, you eventually come to the door and unlock the secret. The weapons were no other than ancient, raging, and uncontrollable dragons. With the dragons on the loose, you and Abner Tarn set out to elsewhere, uncovering the story of dragons, necromancers, political intrigue, and the main villain, Khal Grontid, and while battling to protect the Khajiit and the culture. After the Elsewhere, the Dragon's Throne does not end there, but it moves to the southern part of Elsewhere, where you and Saisahan focus reforming the Dragon Guard, an order of dragon slayers, and ending Khal Gruid's schemes in southern Elsewhere. Finishing all of the stories unlock the final arc surrounding defeating the Khal Gruid and concluding the Seasons of the Dragon. While this story has concluded, the next one was technically Murkmire Zone. But because I've already covered this chapter, we'll move on to the next big story arc, which is one of my favorites of all time. The chapter of Dark Heart of Skyrim starts with an investigation into Ice Reach Coven, the same Reachman clan that attacked the Dire Frost Keep. You and Lear's Titerborn, on behalf of King Yorn, leader of Ebenham Pact, try to uncover the plot that threatens the Skyrim, or even Tamriel itself. The story leads you to western part of Skyrim and iconic cities such as Solitude, Dragonbridge, and Morthal. There, supernatural harrow storms plague western Skyrim, and dark beasts led by powerful vampire lord devour souls to further their mysterious plans. The most fluent way to experience this chapter to start with both Greymoor's prologue quests. First, finish Coven Conspiracy and then the Coven Conundrum. This will give you a solid base to understand why you go and adventure into 2 dungeons available with the Horrorstorm DLC. After all it's done, your investigation in the Greymoor chapter can begin. The story of ancient vampiric plot does not end there, but it continues with the Ravenwatch Inquiry and the Grey Council quests, Stonethorn DLC, and finally the part where it threatens the city of Markarth as well, and finishes with Markarth DLC zone. When you finish both chapters, the final epilogue can be done. Here, the final arc surrounding Rada al-Saran's Darkstorm and concluding the Dark Heart of Skyrim storyline. The Gates of Oblivion is the 5th main story arc of ESO. Following from Dark Heart of Skyrim, the story of this chapter revolves around deposed Longhouse Emperors, a short-lived dynasty of Reachman rulers, and their pact with Mehrunes Dagon. This event happens 800 years before the events of Oblivion, and it's one of the first Mehrunes Dagon's attempts to invade Nirn. The story starts with Flame of Ambition DLC, where you, Evely Sharparrow, and Lyranith the Dremora are chasing the same mystery, a secret concerning the Longhouse Emperor Leovic. After both prologue quests, The Mortal Touch and The Emperor's Secrets, you're all certain that this mystery concerning Leovic's secret, the ambitions of Marin's Dagon, has just begun, and all roads lead to Blackwood. There, the story revolves around this conspiracy of Longhouse Emperors. The pact with Marin's Dagon was intended to grant them perpetual power, but it has dire consequences for the people of Blackwood and ultimately all Tamriel. Players must investigate this conspiracy, uncover the details of the pact, and ultimately thwart the Dagon's plans to invade Nirn. After Blackwood Zone's story, you continue to investigate the Walking Flame group activity in the Walking Flame DLC and another prologue quest, an apocalyptic situation, and the key and the catalyst. You figure out that they operate in Fargrave, a small demiplane in Oblivion that has open portals to the Deadlands, the realm of Marin's Dagon. When both stories in Blackwood and Deadlands are finished, you have a chance to continue the epilogue of this story, where the final arc surrounding the secret power of Four Ambitions awaits. The legacy of the Bretons storyline begins in a prologue Ascending debut, where you uncover a new faction called the Ascendant Order. They claim to fight for the common folk, but their actions quickly reveal a much darker agenda. The story continues in the Ascending Tide dungeons, where the Ascendant Order expands its influence across the seas, setting the stage for this year's main event. In the High Isle chapter, peace talks are planned to finally end the Free Banner War, but the Ascendant Order moves to disrupt these efforts, forcing you to work alongside Lady Rebel and other allies to keep negotiations alive. After the High Isle, the focus shifts to the Druids of the Seastress in the Sojourn of the King prologue quest. Here we begin to uncover the history of the ancient Druid King Kasran and the tensions between the Druid circles. The conflict escalates in the Lost Depths dungeon, where it becomes clear that one Druid faction seeks to claim this dangerous power. Finally, in Firesong DLC, the Firesong Druids rise in open war, aiming to dominate both Druids and the Bretons. You join your allies in the Sisters to bring the conflict to an end, concluding the legacy of the Bretons. The Shadow over Morrowind story begins with the prologue, Eye of the Fate, where you encounter the hidden Daedric prince, Hermaeus Mora. He warns of a threat that endangers not only Apocrypha, his realm of forbidden knowledge, but also all of Nirn. The danger quickly unfolds in the Scribes of Fate dungeons, where a secretive cult works to unravel reality itself by tempting with fate and forbidden knowledge. This leads to the Necrom chapter, set along the Tilvani Peninsula and the city of Necron. Here you assist Hermaeus Mora directly as ancient secrets surface. Forbidden tomes are unearthed, and shadowy forces threaten to undo the balance between the realms. The next steps comes in the prologue quest Prisoner of Fate, where the focus shifts to a new player in this cosmic struggle, the Forgotten Prince, Ithelia, whose return has grave consequences for both Daedra and the mortals. In the Science of Ithelia dungeons, you uncover more of this prince's growing influence and the chaos unearthed by their followers. Finally, the arc reaches its climax in the Gold Road chapter, where the Forgotten Prince becomes fully realized. You and allies must confront this new power before it reshapes Tamriel forever. And this brings us to today. ESO has woven 7 massive story arcs, each one building on the last, zones, dungeons, and entire chapters. For you to easily manage every quest in each story arc, I've made a simple quest roadmap for every story arc in ESO. You can get it for free on my Patreon in the description below. If you found this guide helpful, give this video a like and subscribe for more ESO content, and let me know in the comments which story arc was your favorite. Personally, I'll never forget my first time I stepped back into Skyrim. Now have a great day and goodbye.